welcome to Copper's Corner, music history podcast, where we'll be talking to new guests each week about their favourite singer and influences. And this week, I'm joined by none other than Grum Gallagher. And I'd like to welcome you to the show. Thanks very much for coming on, Grum.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Before we get into this week's topic, which is Hank Williams, I suppose you'd call him the grandfather of country.
Yeah, absolutely. And rock and roll even.
Yeah. I just want to say, if you want to follow the podcast, go over to Instagram or Facebook. It's Copper's Corner Podcast. And we also have a Patreon now as well. It's patreon.com/Copper's Corner Podcast. And I put some bonus stuff up there over the next few weeks, hopefully, and all that good stuff. And where can people find you, Grum, before we get into it?
Grum_G at Instagram.
Yes.
At the moment. I have a Bandcamp in process.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I'll put links down in the podcast description so you can find them. But yeah, before we talk about Hank Williams, I'd like to talk to you a bit about your own musical career.
It's been a long, winding trail, I suppose. I've furrowed. Yeah, played with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Session work for years and touring with people. I'm still playing right with Jerry Fish, which is great. He's amazing.
He's Jerry Fish in the Mudbug Club.
Oh, we killed the Mudbug 8 years ago.
That's okay. Yeah. So it's just Jerry Fish now.
Yeah. Well, it suits. It's his story, really. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's great. He's great to write songs with and play gigs with, and travelled a lot of the world with him as well. So yeah, it's great when music pays off like that.
Yeah. Must be something else to be able to do that. Just go around the world.
Yeah, I don't do half as much of it anymore though, because I used to play when I lived in Dublin. I played with ridiculous amount of people, too many. That's kind of why I've moved out to the country.
Some peace and quiet out in the country.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, peace and quiet in Thomastown style, I suppose.
Yeah. It's a bit mad in itself anyway, isn't it?
It's a different kind of crazy, all right. So yeah, I toured for years. Big Runga, Automata, Mick Flannery. I did Kathy Davies stuff years ago as well. I mean, and then I never really had time to focus on my own songs, really.
Yeah.
So I had Duende Dogs. That was anytime I was home for a few months. It was just a kind of pickup band, really, whoever was around.
Yeah.
And then when I got to Thomastown, I met Joe and James, and it just felt like the right thing to do.
Should myself and Joe go back a long time as well? And
that's right. Yeah. You come from the metal background as well. It's amazing. I'm only getting into metal lately. Appreciating the virtues of it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
there's a lot to it. Alright, people just brush it off. Oh, that's loud and angry. And there's a lot more to it.
I think it's because when I was in school, I loved my Hank Williams and Eddie Cochran and stuff like that, and The Who and all that when I was a kid. And most of the other people in my class were metalers and stuff, and it was really
crusties, as we were called. So what did you call them?
Just metalheads, metalheads. Rockers, I suppose. Okay. Yeah, but it was just a really tight circle clique. I found that with most types of it, there seems to be a clique, but I think people are becoming a bit more open in general to, there's more than just one club to be a member of.
That's true,
which is great because it's all music.
Mm-hmm. You do a bit of country as well yourself.
I do, yeah. Well, I kind of, my earliest memories of music would be like Hank Williams and Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, George Jones, all those greats. Because my dad, he was just, anything I know about music is from my dad, really. He was my biggest influence. So when you asked me to do this, I said, I can't just pick one artist or one song.
It's like, who's your favorite singer? There's loads of them.
In what style?
Yeah.
So, and then I'd go, well, I suppose my dad would be my greatest influence, and then working it backwards. I suppose
a musician in himself.
He tried to play the banjo. It was most entertaining. So it was, Yeah, he never grasped it. He was a music lover and a listener. And sure, musicians wouldn't have a job without those people to buy products. So,
he passed on a lot of music taste.
I remember being brought to record shops and just touring record shops for hours, trying to find little vinyl nuggets and stuff like that. So I still have all my dad's record collection. There's some incredible, the MGM first edition, Hank Williams releases, a few 7-inches, the albums, all that. So it was when because he was a milkman. So he'd come, he was a lot of things, but he was a milkman as well. So he'd come home on a Sunday morning really early, and with 3 kids be in bed, having a lie on, and he'd just crank up the stereo to full with Hank. Incredible.
Brilliant.
And it kind of annoyed me at the time, but brilliant. Like, I've carried all those records with me all my life. Like,
it's kind of shaped your musical
absolutely
direction
and
from a young age.
I think an appreciation for emotional content of songs and good story writing. I think because like Hank, I don't know, it's just so dark. Like,
Can be, yeah.
He's amazing. The poor chap. I mean, he had a pretty hard time of it. Like, I mean, the spina bifida, all that, Depression era America, Dust Bowl stuff.
Yes,
like it's a different world now.
It's different altogether.
Yeah, and it's just the way he got to become. He was kind of the first real famous country person, really. I think because it was such poor people's music, like the Louisiana Hayride and all that. It was the
cotton fields
Chitlin circuit, like
yeah. And
I mean, even the Grand Ole Opry wouldn't have him, until he sold a ridiculous amount of records. Like
that's true, true, yeah.
And then of course he got too drunk and they kept kicking him off. But
well, we'll get to that. But he's like he was the one that brought like singer songwriter to the masses, basically to the charts.
I think so, yeah. I think, and what song was it? Move It On Over.
That's one of his first hits.
1947, I think that was.
Yeah.
I mean, that's rockabilly. That's Bill Haley before, or Eddie Cochran, or Elvis even before that even existed.
That's true, yeah.
So I think that song is the start of rock and roll, really. Yeah.
And like, he went on to influence just so many of our, idols as well, like Johnny Cash and Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson, as you said, and all these guys. Like,
it's grand. His family, like Hank Jr., he's all right, but clouded by the Nashville business at the time.
Yeah.
So, but Hank III, he's a hero altogether. He is like
Hank III is his grandson.
Yeah,
Hank Jr. is his son. So they had a whole legacy of Hanks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Hank III, the grandson, he's the spitting image of Hank Senior, and he plays
for all the tattoos. And it's all like on
he plays metal and hardcore punk.
That's true. Yeah,
the most amazing country music as well. So you've been Hank III, and you're there with metal and country. It's a good combo.
It is. Yeah, I suppose it'll be a hard legacy to live by. Say, my grandfather was Hank Williams, and people expect a lot from me then
big
as well.
Time, yeah. So I think he probably, when he was younger, wanted, we all want to rebel against what our.
So he went the punk route and the metal route, and
came back around. Country's good too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
He still has no money either, which is great. Like, so I mean, nobody got rich off Hank Williams.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, that's true. I suppose we kick into Hank's history. Yeah, talk about basically this guy was one of the major influences on country music. Well, his career was only about 4 years.
Yeah, it was quite brief. He was kind of. I don't think he was 27 when he died, but he was
29.
In one of those,
I think.
29.
Yeah, that's true.
But he's the original tragic hero of kind of 20th century art, I suppose. Yeah. I mean, lots of classical musicians and painters and all that had terrible existences, but
and he was one of the original like Hellraisers.
Totally,
well.
Yeah. He was a bad boy, but environmental influence, I suppose.
Yeah, it's true.
I think his mum owned like a bordello or a lodging room and stuff like that. I think, wasn't Hank? He was born with spina bifida, so he always had spinal trouble and was in horrific pain most of the time. So
horrible back pain. He took to the drink to take the edge off. I suppose.
The drink and the morphine and the rest of it. Like, terrible. But his music and his art should be celebrated, definitely.
Absolutely. I even love the old recordings as well. It's like the old microphone in the center of the room.
Gorgeous. And one mic. And,
the whole band huddled around it.
Yeah, how to mix. You move back a bit. It's brilliant. Like, I love that. I'd love to be able to just nail that kind of recording.
Yeah, I want to get one of those old 100-year-old microphones.
I know, they're so expensive. So it's crazy.
Amazing. Let's go back to, I suppose, his start. He was born Hiram King Williams.
Yeah, Hiram.
Yes.
I think there's a line of thought that goes, his parents were, or his dad or his parents, they're involved in Freemasonry.
True, yeah.
Because there's a lot of that in America at the time. And Hiram is, I think the key of Hiram, it's some Freemasonry kind of
He's like a
something.
king of something. Yeah, higher up. Freemason. He was born.
This isn't a conspiracy theory about Freemasonry and Hank Williams, but
that's a different podcast.
Addendum, yeah.
But yeah, he was born in Mount Olive, Alabama, in September 17, 1923.
Yeah, wow, nearly 100 years ago.
Yeah,
wow,
nearly 100 years. So Great Depression was what, 1920?
Yeah, into the 30s, I think.
Yeah, so the whole
Wall
10-year
crash was 20s.
Yeah, or 29.
Yeah,
20.
It's a Black Thursday or something.
Yeah, so this is around the time the whole Dust Bowl, the great march over to California, and the whole basically bad time to be in America.
Yeah, the crops wouldn't grow, the cows wouldn't milk, you know, all of that. And you can hear all that in Hank's songs.
Definitely,
as well, But he tried to put a positive spin on everything. We're still living, but everything's okay. It's like, you know, the creeks run dry, and the cows won't milk. There's a hole in the roof, but we're still living. Everything's okay.
That's the best way to look at things.
Totally,
yeah. So when he was 8, then he was given a guitar by his mother, and then he learned basically his guitar craft from Rufus Payne.
Yeah, as a street guy, like a homeless black person, a blues guy, which is interesting because Hank, again, he's mixing with races and changing the whole thing up again. You know, he learned how to play blues guitar and turned that into his own version of white folk country blues.
And sure, like, black musicians would have basically influenced all bass music.
Absolutely. I think anyone who had a grow for music at that time, they'd have to look to black blues or black street musicians like the Robert Johnsons, all that. Because they were the only real kind of innovators talking honestly, really, about day-to-day folk, like, you know. Because, I mean, jazz, some incredible stuff in that as well, but it's usually more from, like, big cities where there's more money around and stuff like Chicago, New York. So Hank he stayed where he was from, really, and kind of, you know, he wanted to tell stories of real people that he could relate to because he was one of them, kind of thing. Like,
Of course, like, jazz and rock and roll. This is before rock and roll, but jazz would mean like the devil's music back then.
Absolutely,
you know? And really looked down on by white people or whatever. You know, it's just that's not
like they were obviously hopheads and, you know,
jazz cigarettes and
that exactly. The Muggles.
But they obviously were a huge influence on, like, Elvis and everything going forward. And so he basically, when he learned a bit of a craft from this guy Rufus Payne, who was also called T-Tot.
T-Tot, that was it.
T-Tot, So he learned to play guitar and sing the blues. And but then he moved around a bit went to Georgiana and Greenville areas of Alabama in his early teens, started playing around.
I think his dad got really sick or something and ended up in a hospital.
True,
so there was no income for the family, so the mother and Hank, they had to go out and work and do whatever, like selling peanuts on the street or something.
So I think that's true. His father fell on his head, I think it was. And he ended up in hospital, kind of a hospice, I guess you say, for 8 years to recover, something like that. So the family had to basically look after themselves and sell peanuts, as you said, to get peanuts and sell.
That's street, like,
So there was young little Hank on the street corner singing songs, selling peanuts in front of him as well.
Brilliant. Like, that's living.
That's it. And so he actually, when his mother moved to Montgomery in Alabama, I think that's where she set up the boarding house.
The boarding house.
And so I think he went to the local radio show, local radio station, WSFA, and he just kind of played out on the street corner.
That's right. He was a kid, and I think he was listening to the radio, and he was like, I want to do that. So he busked on the steps or something like that.
And basically trying to get them inside to hear him. And I think at one point someone said, anyway, we'll go out and listen to this fella, and he's actually all right. We'll give him a shot.
Yeah, he got his own shows twice a week, 2 15-minute slots a week.
That's it,
I think somebody they found some of those original recordings there a few years ago. I think they were released. I think there was a big legal wrangling over who had the rights and all that. I think they did get released out there.
That's true, So he got a bit of a radio spot there, so he's getting started, let's say, anyway. And then he met Audrey Mae Shepherd.
That's where things started going wrong. Well, so right and so difficult at the same time.
Yeah, so they married, they eloped pretty much.
Pretty much,
It was in a gas station.
I think, I remember. Yeah, it was a Texaco station, like, or something like that.
Like Justice of the Peace.
That's it, yeah.
Married them. And so they got married then in, what was that, 43. And
God, yeah, he was really young, starting it all. Wow.
And Audrey became Williams's manager. That was just before they got married. But then, by 46, he was a local celebrity. But he's unable to make much headway nationally. But then himself and Audrey moved to Nashville, which at the time wouldn't have been the Nashville that we know today.
Not quite, no. Yeah, I mean, it's famous now as the center of country. I mean, everyone goes there to try and make it. Like, There's a great Todd Snyder. Have you heard of him? Todd Snyder. He's a Nashville dude. He did this album, East Country Skyline.
Okay.
And it's pretty much about Nashville and how difficult it is. But he's got one beautiful song on that album. It's Alcohol and Pills. And he basically goes into the story of Hank Williams on it as well.
Yeah. So, Pills was a big thing back in the day of Nashville. I mean,
truck drivers, little helpers.
Little helpers, yeah. So,
and they'd no idea back then what harm that any of that stuff could do. Like, they just thought, wow, this is great.
Doctors were just throwing them out to them. And
we can drive 400 miles and with no sleep and do another gig. It's
sort of like Johnny Cash became
that's right, a
victim of that. He became, basically ruined his career for a while there.
The speed freak photo.
Yeah.
You can blur that.
But Hank and Audrey, they went to Nashville hoping to meet Fred Rose, which was a music publisher. I guess he would have been one of the guys to talk to.
He was kind of one of the big publishers. Yeah.
He was the head of Acuff Rose Publishing. And so Rose thankfully liked Williams anyway and asked him to record 2 sessions for Sterling Records, which resulted in 2 singles, Never Again and Hunky Tonkin. Never Again was in December 46, and Hunky Tonkin in 47. And they were successful, so Williams got signed to a contract with MGM Records, which was one of the big,
MGM
big boys back in the day.
The top.
That was 47. So Rose became Williams's manager, record producer.
It's crazy that, this is all post-Second World War, so the whole of America
straight after
coming out of this very turbulent time with, a lot of displaced families and shell-shocked people coming back with no treatment. So it's interesting times, And
actually, Williams couldn't go to the war because of his back. Actually, you mentioned he was born with spina bifida, so he had horrible back issues all his life.
He still went to try and join the army, so he did, and they just,
we can't have you, man. You're too much of a liability.
I think he lost some of his band. Some of his band got drafted, though, the original Drift.
Yes, the Drifting Cowboys on his early band, So this one of them got drafted or whatever back in the day, But Hunky Tonkin, that's one of my favourite songs of his.
So it is. It's got swing,
I played it a few times live, but I don't know if anyone knew it or not. That's the problem with these old songs. You don't know.
For it,
I think so. Yeah,
it works. Then,
I just love that kind of shift in the time change, and it's a lovely song.
It's like Good Country. It's a lot more intricate than most people give it credit for.
Definitely.
And it is a true art and craft to be able to craft a good country song.
Yeah. And like this reminds me the film you mentioned as well. The
Tom Hiddleston vehicle.
I saw The Light. It was called.
That's it.
Tom Hiddleston and Elizabeth Olsen.
That's right. I watched it because it's Hank. I have to watch it. I was surprised at using Tom Hiddleston, so I was going, what's this English guy going to do this? But actually, he did it all right. I mean, I don't think any biopic is ever going to be.
No. You're only going to go off what stories people tell. Exactly. You don't know what actually happened.
Yeah, and it's kind of whatever the director thinks it should be, kind of thing.
Liabilities are taken for dramatic purposes.
It's kind of it does a good bookend on the story if you're interested in Hank. Watch it. I think Tom sang as well.
He did, it's kind of like the Johnny Cash one with
Joaquin
Phoenix. So the same idea. Tom Hiddleston did.
I think
singing
it
performances.
Bombed at the box office, though, did it?
Sure it did, yeah. I just kind of discovered it on Netflix a few years ago.
I'd never even heard of it. Same as yourself. probably Netflix trawl or yeah.
I think this is actually what got me into Hank Williams. Watching that film, I was like, "Whoa, this!" I didn't know anything about him. Like, you wouldn't come up in most like pop culture nowadays, except for Mason. What's it? Mason Ramsey, the guy we'll talk about later on.
Oh yeah, you just turned me on to this. This is amazing. This kid is brilliant. I don't do much TV or any of that. Which is a good thing or a bad thing, but yeah, what's his name?
Mason Ramsey. Yeah, great name.
He's the real deal.
So yeah, this kid, he went to, I think he's a local Walmart, like every weekend. He just kind of stood in the aisles and started singing old Hank Williams songs and that. And then someone took video of him, and next thing he knew, he was on the Ellen DeGeneres show.
Wow! And
he was like the biggest thing for. This was a few years ago now.
Her show is huge. Wow.
Yeah, it's like modern day Oprah.
Yeah,
I suppose you say. But yeah, he became massive. He was singing Lovesick Blues and all these different songs. It's weird seeing a little 10-year-old singing Lovesick Blues,
but doing it properly.
And he's doing the yodeling, of course. Like that's obviously a major Hank Williams trait is the yodel.
Yeah, I've tried. I just can't. It's
like yodel. Yeah, it's I suppose for a modern music listener, it's hard to go back and hear that. I think it's a very unique vocal style.
Yeah, it's I think it's from German immigrants into America. Yeah, the Edelweiss and all that in the Alps. So, yeah.
So he had that real distinctive yodel in his voice. It really it plants it in time as well.
Definitely, yeah. Because I mean, the 60s, like, was it oohs and ahs and babies? But back then it was yodel-ay oohs.
Yeah. That's it. And then he went on to do Move It On Over.
Tune.
It's the Big Dogs coming in. That was in 47. And that was Hank's first single for MGM, Metro Goldwyn Mayer, I think.
That's them, yeah.
And of course, like Willie Nelson has done a version of it since. Yeah. Great stuff.
Yeah, that's a rock and roll tune.
Yeah.
Like that's
12 Bar Blues kind of song, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's got that rockabilly kind of shuffle to it as well. It's like Bill Haley, his songs are very like that structure and that kind of shuffly movement, and there's nearly an upstroke to it as well. Yeah. It's great. Like,
yeah.
So I'd say that's rock and roll.
Rock and roll, early rock and roll.
Yeah.
So it was an immediate hit. It got up to the top 5. But then by the summer of 48, he had joined the Louisiana Hayride.
That's a big deal back then. Like, I mean, it was only
in
those few states, but I mean, we're in Ireland, just like Ireland.
Few counties.
Tiny.
Oh, I suppose the whole of Ireland, a few Irelands almost.
I've driven from Cork to Derry a few times. That's a hell of a ride. But yeah, these guys on the Hayride, that's what they do. They just drive hundreds and hundreds of miles. And
that's it.
You know, and just play for not that much money, really.
No. You're talking like probably $20 if even.
Yeah, I think he was earning more on his little radio shows twice a week when he was a kid than when he actually started touring.
Yeah,
you know,
that's it. Yeah. So yeah, Hunky Tonkin was released in 48, which was, I think they must have re-released it again with the.
Oh yeah, because it was a different record label.
Yeah,
before that.
Over to the Metro Goldwyn Mayer. Then I'm a Long Gone Daddy. The next song as well.
I need you anyhow.
So yeah, Moving On Over was the big song, and the other ones didn't get to that level of popularity, I suppose. But that doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it still happens now, doesn't it? Doesn't it? With some artists, like the first single or an early single will blow up, and then it's like
it's like the whole second album syndrome.
Exactly.
And so then early 49, he recorded Lovesick Blues, which is probably one of his most famous songs.
Probably one of the most famous ones, yeah.
And
he just wrote really honest lyrics, I think, and framed them in a way that if you read them on a page, it might look corny, but when you're hearing them in that song structure, they make sense.
Yeah.
You can kind of relate and feel it as well, I think. Yeah.
Really, kind of really makes you feel for him when he's singing that song.
Yeah, it's a form of blues, I suppose, isn't it? Like,
yeah. So that song went up to number 1 for 16 weeks.
Wow, that's a good run.
And crossed over to the pop top 25. So it didn't just stay in the country charts.
That's where the money is.
Went over to the pop charts. And so yeah, when he got a chance at the old Grey Opry.
Yeah,
gave him a chance, of course.
Grand Ole Opry.
Grand Ole Opry is this legendary venue in Nashville.
Was it Fred Rose or Roy Acuff that kind of pushed to get him on?
Yeah, I'd say.
I think. I suppose because they were kind of writing together as well. So yeah,
if you had a foot in the door there,
that was the supreme. You'd arrived if you got on the Grand Ole Opry back then. Even I think it's still going as well.
It is, yeah. And back in the day, it was had a 5,000 megawatt antenna, which was monstrous back in the day. Back in that time, 1947 or 1949. So that would have been would have broadcast across the whole Midwest, which is a large expanse of land.
Broadens the potential for getting out there.
Exactly. And apparently on his first performance, he was called back to the stage for encores.
Oh yeah.
Some people say 2 times and some people say 10 times.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere in between. Yeah. But I think it's still a standing record. He got the most encores.
Yeah. Imagine that. He's just I just want to go now. Smoke a cigarette.
Go to the bar over there.
Yeah.
Audrey's beating me. I want to go.
And of course, Audrey, she really wants to be very much part of it.
Yeah. I've heard recordings of her and she's trying so hard, God love her, but she ain't no Tammy.
Yes. She was Hank's backing singer.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were saying that she kind of held the band back a bit and she wasn't the best singer in the world.
Yeah, she did a bit of a Yoko on it, did she? Although I like Yoko on it too.
Yeah. So a lot of people were saying that, maybe we should get rid of her. But Hank was obviously a bit easy on her.
Yeah, the Lovesick Blues.
Yeah, Lovesick Blues. Yeah. And of course, I think Hank's mother, did not like Audrey at all.
No, well, yeah.
A lot of falling outs, and she just didn't like her at all. Yeah.
I think because the mommy was trying to control Hank's career as well, wasn't she? So he had 2 women fighting over him for basically money, not really about his health and well-being and mental state.
Yeah, that comes into a lot later. He felt that toward the end of his career, he felt that he was a commodity. He was just a product. Like, you go here now and play and make us loads of money.
Yeah, which is kind of the Kurt Cobain aspect as well. All these emotions, they're base human emotions that people have. And
just this whole, he would have been obviously very early days of musicians becoming outrageously famous.
Yeah,
and not being able to kind of cope with the stress of it all.
Because dirt poor to buy a gold Cadillac, Well, he didn't buy a gold Cadillac. He bought several Cadillacs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like madness. How can you keep a handle on that?
So
with 2 women fighting.
So the alcohol and the old pills come into in a big way around this time. But around spring of 49, Audrey and Hank had their first child, Randall Hank. I think, is this Bocephus as well?
I think that is, Bocephus, that's Hank Jr.,
Jr., yeah. Bocephus, some great name, isn't it? Must be biblical.
It's proper Southern,
And he went back, and in the spring he reassembled the Drifting Cowboys, which was his early band, his first band.
Yeah.
And so he had featuring guitarist Bob McNett and bassist Hilius Buttram.
These are more amazing names.
Buttram. Yeah. A fiddler, Jerry Rivers, and steel guitarist Don Helms.
Fantastic steel guitarist. Yeah, that was when I was a kid, just waking up in the bed and hearing these ethereal noises coming from the stereo downstairs. Yes, the steel guitar, it's a particular kind of instrument. It's a bizarre instrument.
Yeah.
So it is. You can't mistake a steel guitar. It is what it is, and it's incredible.
It adds this real vibe to your tracks.
Yeah, it just moves. You're a guitarist as well. You probably know that it's a contraption.
Just all
levers
and pedals and it's all, you bend the string with your foot.
Yeah,
all this crap.
Madness.
All this crack. Yeah, it's mad. It's real. You're probably using every inch of your brain to play it.
Yeah. Actually, N.C. Lawler. Noel Lawler. He lived down in Thomastown for a bit. He's an incredible steel guitarist. So he's back in Dublin, but he goes out busking on the streets, and he's incredible. You can watch him for hours, I have done. So,
You can kind of get some real emotion out of the bends and slowness, and of course that became a huge staple in country music for
big time.
Even putting in a few of my own songs as well. So it's
you have to.
Still there,
it's got the feels.
Yeah, gives you the feels. So yeah, he and the band were starting to earn $1,000 per concert.
That's big money back then.
That was massive money back then. Be $5-6 maybe today, more maybe.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, you know, what do you call it? Count for inflation and all that over the years and that. So yeah, he went to have 7 hits in 49. Lovesick Blues is again one of them, and Wedding Bells, Mind Your Own Business, You're Gonna Change or I'm Gonna Leave, My Bucket's Got a Hole in It. And
I love the way he kind of like his songs, like Wedding Bells, it's a real slow, kind of mournful, romantic thing, and then Mind Your Own Business, it's another rock and roll track again. Like it's you know, it's country, but it's the different side of it, and I like that about Hank, because he could do the saddest, loneliest, most beautiful song and then just tear it up like in the next breath. I mean, that's incredible to be able to do that.
Yeah, and sure, he was doing it flat out as well. He was touring all over the country constantly. Then he'd have to keep going. I think he still had his original show, the Hayride.
That's right. He'd have to get back to do that.
So he could be over 400 miles away and have to get back for the Saturday show every
this
weekend.
Is all on terrible dirt roads for the most part. Like old cars. I mean, both V8 and all that. A lot of straight roads back then in America.
That's true, yeah. So he basically, it's a lot more songs in 1950, including Long Gone, Lonesome Blues, Why Don't You Love Me, Moaning the Blues, and top 10 hits. I just don't like this kind of living. And another one, My Son Calls Another Man Daddy. They'll never.
There's a lot of sad songs in there, like
They'll never take her love from me. Why should we try? Nobody's lonesome for me. So many lonesome songs.
Totally, yeah. He was a little dark heart on him.
Yeah. But then also he had a lot of spoken word.
This is my favourite stuff. I have to say, the Luke the Drifter stuff.
Luke the Drifter.
I still have the original copy of that album, and I have to stop playing it because it's getting worn out.
Wearing it out.
But it's so beautiful. There's it's poetry in motion. Like there's a lot of kind of Hammond organ or church organ. There's no real chord structures to a lot of it. It's kind of poetry. It's ahead of its time, I think. Like,
And of course, the story behind that was he wanted to release these spoken word pieces, but the record company is like, no, that doesn't really suit what you're doing.
Yeah, you'll alienate your audience or something like that. Yeah.
So he basically took the name Luke the Drifter and released him under that.
It's incredible songwriting. Like, I know he co-wrote some of the songs on it, but they're amazing. Like, I mean, they're the basis for like later, beat poetry and stuff like that being set to music. It's that like textural ambient music in the back and a story coming over.
And a soundscape almost.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody was doing that before that. It's
absolute pioneer in every sense of the word.
Totally, yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah. And then, so he continued to rack up the hits in 51, beginning with the top 10 hit, Dear John, and his number one flip side, Cold, Cold Heart.
Tune.
Which is, I'm actually doing a version of it.
You're doing a version.
I love it. But it actually wasn't him that released it first. I think he gave it to Tony Bennett.
Oh, Tony was huge. Oh, okay.
Or someone gave it to Tony Bennett anyway. But Tony Bennett didn't like the songs. Like, why would I sing a country song? He was a crooner,
the lounge kind of
stuff, yeah.
Vegas, baby.
So he was like, he didn't really like the song at first, but then I think he listened to it a few times. Oh, okay, I can get my head around this.
Great.
He released that song, did his own kind of lounge style on it, I guess.
It's a sign of a good song, isn't it? If you can change the delivery style of it, but it still resonates as
absolutely
as a song.
When he released that, then it became massive.
Brilliant.
Huge song. And then, of course, Hank Williams' own version became massive after that because people knew the song, and then that gave more.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. Like,
yeah. So that gave more fame, I guess, to Hank after that, because Tony Bennett was a huge name back then.
Yeah,
up there, Frank Sinatra,
rich white folk. Yeah,
yeah. And so a lot of other people start covering his songs as well. A lot of his names I wouldn't be familiar with: Joe Stafford, Guy Mitchell, Frankie Lane.
Frankie Lane is kind of iconic as well.
Yeah. And so, he began to appear on...
They're Matt Johnson, kind of one of my favourite bands as well. He's Matt Johnson, English guy, started off in late 70s, early 80s, I think. incredible. But he did an album of Hank Williams cover versions.
Yeah.
It's amazing, amazing. I has Johnny Marr playing guitar and harmonica and all that.
Johnny Marr,
yeah. And so, I mean, Hank's stuff, it still resonates.
Definitely, definitely. So, apparently all this fame was actually, it was starting to catch up on him.
And more pills, more alcohol.
Yeah.
It's the ever-decreasing spiral, I suppose. He got caught in the trap.
Yeah. So apparently, before he became a star, he was drinking anyway. He was mild drinking problem, as they say here.
He started when he was a kid. Like, it's like too young to be drinking,
So he had his own, he basically couldn't have one. You'd have to...
Yeah, one is too many and 100 is not enough.
So, he could control it at the start, I suppose. But then...
he kind of started to fall out with people that were trying to help him, like Acuff Rose and all that, I think.
Yeah.
I can't remember which one of them it was, told him, but it was either Acuff or Rose. They said, Hank, you got $1 million talent, but you got a 10-cent brain. And it was just because he drank so much.
Yeah. Apparently he would drink for 4 or 5 days in a row.
Yeah.
He'd just be lost. You couldn't get him.
How do you do that? It's incredible.
Yeah. Of course, he started missing gigs.
Yeah.
And that led to the old Grand Ole Opry basically cutting ties with him.
I mean, that's your ticket. Like, that's money in the bank. And if that's cut off, Audrey's not going to be happy.
That's it. And so they kind of let him go, as you could say. And that obviously wasn't great for his, health, mental health and all as well.
Kind of slumped back into a worse, the ever-decreasing circle, I suppose.
Then, of course, his own marriage to Audrey was in the rough patch as well.
Tumultuous at the best of times. But,
apparently he wasn't a very happy, friendly drunk.
No.
So he was, there's reports of violence and shouting, and basically they were always fighting.
Yeah, a toxic relationship, I think they call it now.
So some interviews with old band members saying how they'd be all just sitting around and they'd be screaming at each other, and everyone was like, "This," it's so obvious to everyone what was going on as well, and
it's not pretty.
So they separated a few times, and of course Audrey went off and tried to create her own recording career.
Yeah,
she didn't really go anywhere.
No.
Yeah. So when he was on a hunting trip in '51. On his Tennessee farm, he tripped and he fell, reactivating a dormant back injury. Williams began taking morphine and other painkillers for his back and quickly became addicted.
Yep. I suppose they didn't really know back then. Well, they did about the morphine and stuff. But, it's like Elvis as well. His doctor was filling him up with all this stuff too, just to keep going. And
would have been less controls back then as well, I suppose. Much easier to get this stuff.
Exactly. I mean, I think the mentality was, just pump him full of something to get him on the road and earning $1, I think.
Energy to keep you going, to keep you awake. So in January 52, Hank and Audrey separated for the final time, and he headed back to Montgomery to live with his mother. And but apparently, the move had little effect on his music career, and with Hunky Tonkin Blues peaking at number 2 during the spring, and then he released 5 additional singles in 52, half as much, Jambalaya. That's a great song.
That's a good party tune.
And I hear that, you hear that Irish country music gigs every now and again as well.
It's still a staple.
Setting the Woods on Fire is another one. You Win Again. And I Never Get Out of This World Alive.
What a pretentious tune.
All of which chart in top 10. But with all this success, he became very reckless. So he spent nearly all his waking hours drunk and taking drugs, all the pills and that. And he frequently destroyed property and played with guns.
Yeah. Merca. Get your guns.
So it says here, he left his mother in early spring, moving in with Ray Price in Nashville. And so in May, Audrey and Hank were officially divorced. And she was awarded the house and her child, as well as half of his future royalties.
Wow.
Ooh. Big half. Williams continued to play a large number of concerts, which would have been multiple a week, every night nearly, I'd say.
Road,
but he was always drunk during the show, Sometimes he missed the gigs altogether. And so this is in August then in 52. This is when the Grand Ole Opry fired him.
Yeah, I know he did try and clean up a lot of times. Like, I mean, he was in rehab. Well, they didn't call it rehab back then. He's in the hospital.
Yeah.
But none of the cures took, really. So yeah, he was in a constant battle with himself, really. Like, you know.
That's true. But they said, you know, come back when you're sober. But yeah, he didn't really go that way. So he just basically sank deeper and deeper into self-destructive behavior. Soon his friends were leaving him as the drifting cowboys began working with Price and Fred Rose. And Fred Rose no longer supported for old Hank.
Yeah, the rats leaving the sinking ship.
So they're great. When the good times are rolling, they're your best friends. Yeah.
Although they did try and help. He's just
he wasn't
too far gone. I
didn't want to help.
Yeah.
But he was still playing that Louisiana Hayride, as you said. So he's, I think it's every Saturday, or nearly every Saturday. And he still traveled back across the country, wherever he was, to play that. And began earning reduced wages because he was...
The dream is over.
He was too much of a liability.
Big time, yeah.
You couldn't depend on him to show up.
No.
And if he did, then he'd have to pay or whatever.
There's been someone like that in every kind of style, really. I mean, remember the Libertines and stuff like that, or even Shane MacGowan, another great songwriter that unfortunately takes the pain, you know, and just feeds it.
Yeah. So basically then he met a 19-year-old called Billie Jean Jones Eschmiller.
Was she a dancer or something like that?
Something like this. Apparently she was like the belle of the ball. She walked into a room, everyone was looking at her. She was absolutely beautiful.
We all know some of them.
So yeah, he I think the story was she was with some other guy that night, and he went over and he goes, you know, what's your intentions with this girl? Are you going to dance with her or not? So apparently they end up...
Consummate gentleman.
Yeah. So apparently they end up swapping dates.
Oh, wow.
Hank spends the night with Billie Jean.
Hank Williams does Love Island. Wow.
And by October, which was, I think, was like a month or two after they met, they were married. So that was very quick. And...
was that marriage ever legal? I think that was... contended as well. I think in that, whatever state it was, you have to be separated for a set period of time before you can legally get married again. So I think they're still, they weren't really married. But that's his ex-wife, I think, Audrey, and the mammy go, no.
Yeah.
Because that would have meant, I'm sure, the new wife would have been entitled to
half.
So this is where the legalities get crazy.
Apparently, I think he got Billie Jean pregnant, so he had to sign up to support the baby as well. And he had another girlfriend called Bobby Jett.
Oh, that's right. They had a kid as well, didn't they?
And actually, the kid was born like a few weeks after he died.
Yeah.
So that was, you know, another thing. But by the end of the year, Williams was having heart problems, and Toby Marshall, a con man doctor, was giving him various prescription drugs to help soothe the pain. So he was getting a cocktail of anything.
Numb.
Yeah.
So he couldn't feel the pain, just crack on.
And he'd hop into a bottle of whiskey as well, I'd say.
Never a good mix, like, you know.
Yeah. So now we're coming up to the end of his...
The end days. It is a really tragic end, like, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And I don't think he even knew the driver. I always thought it was like one of his band or something was driving him, but no, it's just some college student.
Hired driver, yeah.
And the kid, I don't think even realised for a few hours that he was carting a cadaver around in the back, not a genius artist going to his next gig. It was terrible. So was it really snowy or something? And they got...
Could have been,
yeah.
That's it.
They couldn't make one gig or something, so they went on to the other one. It was a horrific drive.
Yeah.
New Year's Eve, dead of winter.
That's it.
No aircon. Just a
heating.
Load of whiskey.
And, So, on January 1st, 1953, Hank was scheduled to play a concert in Canton, Ohio. And he was scheduled to fly out of Knoxville, Tennessee on New Year's Eve. But the weather was so bad, I think it was so snowy, as he said.
Oh, yeah.
He had to hire a chauffeur. I'm not saying that right. Chauffeur. driver to help him to drive him to Ohio in his new Cadillac.
Well, that's a long drive.
That's
Tennessee to Ohio.
I haven't fathomed how long. That's
stupid.
Multiple double figures hours worth.
Yeah.
And before they left, Williams was injected by this probably Toby Marshall, the con man doctor, injected him with 2 shots of vitamin B12 and morphine.
It's crazy, the vitamin B12. There was always a vitamin B shot. It was the same with in the like Velvet Underground in the 60s. There was this doctor that they'd go to for their vitamin B12 shots, but it was, you know, amphetamines or whatever, like the little booster shots.
So he got into the back seat of the Cadillac and allegedly with a bottle of whiskey. And so the teenage chauffeur headed out for Canton. So he was huddled up in the back of this Cadillac, probably lying down on the seat, trying to get sleep, trying to prepare for the gig or just to deal with the pain as well. At the time, he was still in back agony. Yeah,
I think he was in a fight before that as well. I think in the autopsy it came up that he'd been like kicked in the chest and he had a massive bruise on his head and stuff. So they still don't really know the few days leading up what exactly happened. There might be extraneous circumstances that could
have gone in a fight and gotten out shots to the ribs. And,
heart attack or whatever.
So basically, the driver was stopped by a cop for speeding, and the policeman noticed Hank's lying in the back seat. He looks dead to me. He looks like a dead man. And of course, the driver had his eyes in the road. Didn't really. He just thought Hank was sleeping.
So the drunk's asleep. Thank you.
Get some silence for a while. So Williams was taken to a West Virginia hospital, and he was officially declared dead 7 a.m. on January 1st, 1953.
Happy New Year. Wow.
New Year's morning, pretty much. So he died in the back of his Cadillac on the way to his concert.
That's pretty rock and roll. Like it's tragic and awful, but it's pretty rock and roll.
Yeah, that's true. And the last single he released is "I'll Never Get Out of This World Alive."
No, that's
prophetic kind
exactly,
of. So so he's 29 when he died.
Yeah,
he was on the top of the world for 4 years. That was his. He obviously was playing for all his life, but the last 4 years is when he became massive.
He was the golden boy up there. He was top of the pile, really. And he influenced so many people. Like, I love all the outlaw country people like Waylon Willie and all that. Merle Haggard and Hank's their hero kind of thing. It's that. Of
course, Waylon Jennings has a song. I don't think Hank would have done it this way.
Yes, that's right.
That song, playing in Nashville, and the new Nashville wants you to wear a shiny suit and cut your hair, and
it's a business, boys.
Hank wouldn't want it done it this way. But he was buried in Montgomery, Alabama, where he grew up. 3 days after, and I think it was 25,000 people went to the funeral.
Yeah, I think it was
massive,
ridiculously large. There was, I read a book years ago, and there was a bit in it about Hank, and it said that they had to have 2 services or something. There was that many people. But I don't know if that's true or not.
Apparently, it was the largest crowd since Jefferson Davis was inaugurated as president of the Confederacy in 1861.
Wow.
So that was the biggest crowd since then, in 100 years.
Hank affected a lot of people. I think he was so broke as well for his second marriage. I think they did it like a gig. So they charged people.
That's true. They got married. Billie Jean himself got married, I think it was 3 times. Once officially.
3 times. Wow.
And twice on stage as part of the gig.
Yeah, I knew
they charged tickets. Yeah.
That's business.
So to get married on stage and then do a few songs.
Yeah.
And and they did it twice.
Wow.
So that was
because he did blow a lot of money, like a lot. Have you read the biography? I think it's called Your Cheating Heart.
No, I must do it though.
I had a look for it at home, but I've done so much moving around. It's in one of my boxes of books somewhere. But it's brilliant, really good.
So a lot of people went to the funeral. Obviously, a lot of country singers. Audrey Williams went as well. And then the song "I'll Never Get Out of This World" reached #1 immediately after his death, and it was followed by a lot of songs that he would have recorded before his death.
Yeah.
a lot of number ones. Your Cheating Heart, that's another big song.
Yep.
Collage.
It's kind of like a little kid's tune. It's brilliant. Yeah. It's really, it's like from Your Cheating Heart to little kids, nursery rhyming kind of stuff.
Take These Chains From My Heart.
Like that could be a soul tune. Ray Charles did a couple of Hank Williams tunes as well. That could be one. I might be wrong, but
Ray Charles, he was actually involved in the country scene a lot. He did songs of Willie Nelson and Pancho and Lefty and what's the Altar of the Sun? What's that song? 7 Spanish Angels.
Oh, really? Wow.
He did that with Willie Nelson as well.
Wow.
And so after his death, then MGM, the record company, wanted to keep issuing Williams' records.
Of course they did.
So they took some of his original demos and overdubbed bands onto the original recordings. And first, these Weary Blues from Waiting was a hit. Others weren't quite so successful. But then in 1961, he was one of the first inductees into the Country Music Hall of Fame.
Well deserved.
And he actually got a Pulitzer Prize.
Really?
For, I think, the Luke the Drifter stuff.
Really?
But then all of this was after his death, so in the early 60s. So he got huge recognition.
I never knew that. That's amazing. Hanky got a Pulitzer. Jeez, he's arrived in the literary world as well.
Yeah. And so throughout the 60s, Williams' records were released in overdub versions featuring heavy strings.
There was that whole movement around that time, wasn't there? It's like the Nelson Riddle strings, like even Glenn Campbell. I mean, I love his songs. They've got those
Wichita Line Man.
Yeah, those real lush orchestral arrangements. Love that stuff too.
Yeah. So for a lot of these years, apparently they were the only versions of the songs you could get. You couldn't get the older versions. You could only get these overdubbed string added versions.
I've never actually heard many of those overdubbed ones. Wow.
Must look them up and see if you can get them.
Thanks to my dad, I have the original record.
And it's only in the 80s, when his music was released on compact disc, was his catalogue fully restored to his original form. And he went on to be absolute legend.
Big time,
Huge influence on many.
It's like musicians. Most of the greats, isn't it? Like they're only really appreciated after they've gone.
They're like painters, Van Gogh and all these painters died penniless. And
doing something so new and diverse that nobody really understands it. So it's only decades later like, actually that was really good.
Yeah.
When you see the imitators coming up, it's like, he was brilliant.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he really left a legacy.
And
of course, and of course, he had his own legacy on his son Hank William Jr.
Yeah, he had a tragic. He fell off a mountain or something.
Yes,
and it affected his whole, I think, vocal cords. But that's why he grew the beard and the hair and the sunglasses, because his whole face was cut up to bits.
He became a huge star in his own, where he had songs like "Leave This Old Country Boy Alone." What's the name of that song? I can't remember top of my head now, but his real outlaw sound as well.
He was part of that gang, really, wasn't he?
And
then Hank the Third.
The third then is his great grandson.
Yeah.
So he's still going.
Yeah.
As you said, he's gone to punk, he got into metal, he got into country.
Brilliant. And he's a spitting image of his granddad. It's kind of scary looking. There's a famous shot of Hank, I think, coming out of jail in just the white vest and looking all disheveled and stuff. And Hank the Third, looks exactly like Grandpa coming out of jail.
It's true. And he actually released, let me see, it was here somewhere. I think he released about 250 songs. Hank Williams did.
Yeah.
And he wrote 120 of them, so half of them nearly.
Yeah. I mean, for such a short career to have written that much quality work as well,
there's 225 songs. Wow. And he wrote 128 of them.
5 years.
5 years.
Look at him, he's only a whippersnapper.
Yeah. And he would have been, all the ladies would have loved him.
Yeah, he's a cool looking dude. Yeah.
There he is. So he wore the special posthumous Pulitzer Prize in 2010 for songwriting.
Brilliant.
It says here, it doesn't go into more details.
About the Pulitzer. I love his nudie suits. The nudie, he used to design all the suits for the country and western people.
Yeah.
Hank was kind of got him famous as well, as he was the go-to clothes designer then.
For kind of flamboyant suits with tassels and things like that.
Yeah, and even those like just little motif embroidery and stuff like that. Great.
Absolutely.
So he was a fashion influencer, a literary influencer, a music influencer.
You can, and thankfully you can go on to the likes of Spotify now and you can hear these old songs. It's fantastic, you know, so it hasn't been lost, thankfully, you know, it's been put out there.
The internet's a great thing for a bit of research and educating ourselves. And
of course, you have your vinyls with it.
I do. I much
I'd
prefer
love to hear them someday. Amazing.
I was going to bring a few up today, but then it was but definitely, I'll have a few. They're so good.
I don't even have a player, so
I'll show them to you.
Yeah. Oh, that looks lovely. But yeah, that's pretty much the life and times of
I'd
Hank
love to
Williams.
go and visit his gravesite. Actually, it's America. It's over there. COVID.
America. Yeah. But so how would you think he would have influenced your own music?
I think, like I said, the Luke the Drifter stuff really hit me when I was a kid, which is weird for spoken word, ambient, steel guitar.
Yeah.
And I suppose after that, I started getting into Eddie Cochran, the Bill Haley, Eddie Cochran. So it's this natural kind of progression. And then the outlaw kind of music. And that was all in my childhood. And then when I started finding my own musical interests, it was like, I used to love Fields of the Nephilim. Like, they were cowboy goths. Like, they were incredible. They were dirty big Gretches and cowboy outfits.
Yeah.
There was they were influenced by Hank Williams and they turned it into goth music. Like, it's incredible.
Look these guys up.
Brilliant. I'll send you a link when I get home later. They're great. And just really good songs, I think I've always been interested in. And that, I love a twangy guitar as well. Let's see, I play me big hollow bodies and with me Bigsby's. So I think that's it. I've always tried to emulate that kind of steely country guitar hollow body sound, but with the Bigsby tremolo and stuff like that. And simple structures. Yeah. And
3 chords on the truth.
Yeah, and throw in a few sevenths, and the seventh moves the whole thing. Like, it's incredible. All the music I've ever heard in my life, I always keep coming back to a Hank Williams record. And it's my safe place to go to. I know what's there, and I know I can feel it, and I can sit back and forget about everything and just listen and appreciate. Like,
as you said, you can feel it. Like, you can feel the pain in his voice.
And the joy and the happy stuff as well. Like the Jambalaya, that's a party tune.
That's it. Still played to this day.
Totally.
Yeah.
And just being able to get that range of emotion into like a 3-minute format. It's incredible. Like, I think,
Exactly. Of course, in today's popular country, we mentioned earlier, it's the biopic film, I Saw the Light. Which had Tom Hiddleston and Elizabeth Olsen. And I don't think it's on Netflix anymore. I think I went to look for it there a few months ago and it was gone again. You know, the way things come and go the whole time. And that.
I'm sure it's on one of the streamies somewhere. Yeah.
One of the many 50 of them now there is. But and of course, young Mason Ramsey kind of brought his music back a few years ago as well.
That's cool.
He was doing the whole yodeling as well, and he became massive there for a while. And I think, he had Lovesick Blues and Hey Good Looking. We didn't actually mention Hey Good Looking.
Oh, that
didn't come up there.
Good tune.
It's even growing up, I think I kept hearing my mother sing, Hey Good Looking.
Brilliant.
What you got cooking? And that was all, just that one line. Yeah. And it's just like ingrained in my head from a young age.
Kind of, yay.
Yeah. So I just remember that from a very young age.
The good stuff, it stays in there.
Yeah, that comes to, I suppose, the end of our 3rd episode.
Wow, that was great.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, we could go on more, but I think there's enough information there for
I think we did, yeah. And thanks again very much for coming on.
Absolute pleasure
really
to be here. Thanks for asking me. Yeah, it's been good.
Tell again the people where they can find you.
I'm on Instagram at Grum_G. Yeah, that's it. And I'll be fixing my Bandcamp thing in a bit. But if you want to see me in real life, I'm touring, gigging with Jerry Fish all the time. So there you go.
Hopefully get to see you someday playing with them.
Mick Flannery album, I really enjoyed doing that. His second album, that'd be one of the highlights of my musical career so far. Because Mick actually, some of the songs, the way Mick Flannery writes songs, they have that Hank Williams element to it. Just that raw honesty, like, and really well structured lyric. I think you have to be a really good editor to write a good song, you know, because you have to edit it all down into little nuggets, like, you know,
nuggets of gold.
Yeah. So Mick Flannery, he's a bit of Hank Williams in him as well. So yeah, pretty much anything I do, if it hasn't got a bit of Hank in it, I don't do it really. Like, or that ethos of just pure raw honesty and simplicity as well. Because sometimes simplicity can sound so difficult, but
yeah, it's very hard to do a simple song sometimes.
Big time, yeah. But as they say, it's not what you play, it's what you leave out.
The notes you don't play.
There you go.
Yeah. Of course, you recorded the song recently. It was a Gunslinger, what was the name of it?
Oh, yeah, the Last Gunfighter ballad. Yeah, that's a Guy Clark tune. It's an incredible song. And
you did a great version of it. The tone and the atmosphere just drew me straight in when I heard it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was a little exercise for myself because, I bought this gorgeous little acoustic before COVID happened, thankfully.
Yeah.
So I've just been on the couch being an acoustic troubadour at home for COVID. So I kind of got back into just that simple stuff.
Of course, that's on your Instagram.
It is actually.
You have to put up on the old Spotify and that now and get it up there.
I'll get my digital domain sorted. But I think some of the reason I did that Last Gunfighter because Waylon did backing vocals on Waylon Jennings, like on the original.
Yeah. So
I got John Colbert, good friend. Actually, he's living over in Wexford now as well. He has an incredible band, Black Bank Folk. They're amazing. They're just such a good modern folk band.
Look him up.
Really good songwriting. And John, he plays with everyone as well. Like he's a road brother. Like he's just Damien Dempsey, Casey, Jerry Fish. So yeah, and he loves his country too. So he was delighted to help me out with the Last Gunfighter. So
I think country is coming back in a good way. I think
country for the win. I mean, everything else kind of it was.
It's always there.
It's the first really accessible contemporary 20th century music that wasn't elitist, I suppose.
Of course, the whole outlaw music, the whole outlaw movement was these guys wanting to sing their own songs their own way, not having Nashville tell them to be all sparkly and
you have to get the strings
polished
in and stuff.
If they make a dud note in the recording, it's grand. Leave it in there. It's natural.
I've been getting away with that for years. Do it twice. It's supposed to be there.
Yeah, thanks very much for joining us again. You can always follow the podcast on Instagram and Facebook, Copper's Corner Podcast. And you can go over to Patreon if you'd like to help support the show in any way. No worries if not, it's all good. But patreon.com/Copper's Corner Podcast. And again, thanks very much, Grum.
Oh, thanks for having me.
And I hope you enjoyed your time here.
I did. It's been a pleasure. Yeah, my first little poddy interview.
Yeah. Hopefully many more.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to
start your own podcast. You have a great voice for the podcast. So you can start your own one.
It's terrible. I've done so many I've done a lot of radio interviews over the years, and every time they say, "Oh, you have a great voice for radio," and I always go, "Well, give us a job then."
Give us a job.
Nobody's given me a job yet. So.
I know they hear this and it's like, you can't not give you a job then after this.
Brilliant. Well, fingers crossed, touch wood. Nice one. Thanks.
No bother. Thanks very much for joining us, and I hope to see you again next week. All the best.